I always clean my raw chicken with white vinegar and water, and then I proceeded to add adobe seasoning, onions and peppers, green pepper, red pepper, bell, those are bell peppers. Now I'm adding the Worcestershire sauce. What we got there, we have basil that we're gonna add. I'm gonna add it to my hand so that you guys can see just how much I'm using. I usually just kind of pour it into, sprinkle it into the pot, but just so you can see about how much I'm using, I'm putting it into the palm of my hand so you can see the amount. We're also going to use oregano, and we're not going to use too much of that because it can make the sauce a little bitter. So just sprinkle a little bit of oregano on there. And then we have parsley. I go ham with the parsley because it doesn't do anything bad to the sauce. And I feel it kind of enhances everything. So I like to do quite a bit of parsley, as you can see there. In general, curry chicken is healthy depending on which part of the chicken you use. This is chives. So I'm gonna put some chives in there. Now you can use whatever seasonings you are comfortable with or that you prefer. And just know that it'll be different depending on what types of seasonings and herbs and stuff you add to the pot. But like I said, in general, curry chicken is pretty healthy. There we got the sazon. What is that? The sazon with coriander and annatto. And I didn't use too much of that, just enough to get the chicken covered with it. And then I'm going to use two different types of curry powder. I always use two different types of curry powder because it just gives it a nice kick to it. And from each of those, I use about 2 tablespoons. Sometimes I try to level it and not go overboard, but sometimes I go a little, it's not totally level, but 2 tablespoons of each of those curry powders. And I usually like to use this particular one as one of my curry powders. This is the JCS Real Jamaican Style Curry Powder, and it just gives it a nice kick to me. So I love this particular curry powder, but like I said, I always mix it with another one. That's just my preference. You don't have to do two different ones. And this is cumin. So you don't need much cumin because the cumin will overpower the pot if you put too much in there. So maybe just half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of the cumin for a large pot is all you need, just to give it a little kick and to enhance the curry powder flavor. But like I was saying, in general, curry powder is a healthy recipe, depending on which part of the chicken you use. And whether it's skin on, skin off, if you add butters or oils, that can give it more a higher fat intake. Now, usually, depending on which part of the chicken you use, it produces its own juices. So I don't usually have to add water, but because these legs weren't really producing any juices, I had to go in and add some water to kind of help get some sauce in there. And we do what we call bunning the curry. So like initially when you put the curry powder on, you kind of leave it on the fire and just kind of like stir it around and let it kind of quote unquote bun into the chicken. And you can add a little bit of water to do that and let it simmer within itself. Like I said, you don't need a bunch of juices or water for that part. And then as the time goes on and it's starting to like kind of, it almost does get like almost like a bun smell, but you're not really burning it per se. So you go through that process. It takes about maybe about not even a good 10 minutes of that. And then you go in, as you can see, I have a little bit of sauce in there, just enough to kind of, keep the chicken from sticking to the pot. As you can see, it's not a lot of sauce at all. Um, so it's nice and thick, but we're not going to leave it that way because we want to be able to like pour it onto our rice and have it like a sauce, an actual sauce. Because where it's at right now is just a little too thick, and it'll be really strong. Because remember, I have 4 tablespoons of curry powder in there, so I don't want to I'm gonna have to kind of water it down a little bit since it's not producing its own juices with the drumsticks. Usually with the thighs produce a lot of its own juices, so I usually don't even have to add any water. If I do, it'll be like maybe a pot spoonful of water, if that. So you just pour it in there until you get just enough to where not looking super thick, and you have enough sauce to pour on your servings of rice. And here we have the final presentation of what we're going to eat tonight, which is the rice and the corn and some delicious curry chicken. Now remember, you can add potatoes to your curry when you're cooking it, but you might want to pre-cook that, soften it, drain the water, and then add it to the pot so that it doesn't burn to the bottom of the pot while it's cooking. But you definitely can add potatoes to your curry chicken when you're cooking it. And voila, it was so delicious and smelled so amazing.